G'day and welcome to the Jade Rat. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to do a quick review of Morte, Volume 2. I did Volume 1 a while back and I actually finished this book a couple of months ago, but I haven't gotten around to filming this because of everything that's going on. So today I'm going to give it a 77, which is, I believe, higher than the previous score for Volume 1. And it's a better story, I think, in terms of Volume 1 tends to focus a lot on building up the characters and explaining who they are and, the younger years of King Arthur and how he pulled the sword out of the stone, all of those things. But in this one, it really sort of gets into the major story point of it. Spoilers for a book that is 600 years old, give or take. But the final part of the story is really where it gets interesting, and it's really the best part of this book because, of course, the characters are all very exciting and colourful, most of them. But really the ending is where it starts to get really spicy and very exciting, and that's where it all starts to come together. And because the story is so exciting, the major factors that take away from this book are the language. Once again, it's in Middle English, so if you had a hard time reading Volume 1, it does get a little bit easier. You sort of start to get used to it. You can sort of adapt your mind to the language, but still it is a bit of a tough read, and it takes a while to get through and takes a while to glean the meaning out of it, which is why I took 10 points off for it. And I also took off 10 points because of I think an incredibly deciding factor when it comes to these sort of medieval stories is that most, if not all, of the characters, I think most, are really unlikable. And because of this, they don't really create that impact. With the exception of King Arthur, I really liked King Arthur's story, and I liked his sort of view on things. I liked the way that he was mostly really relaxed about everything, and he was fair and just. And he, well, can be argued, but I thought most of his actions were sort of understandable, particularly in the last part of the book. So, where the characters, especially Lancelot, as the book progressed, he became more and more of an unlikable character. And if you remember from Volume 1, characters like Sir Gareth and even Sir Gawain, all of these ones that sort of these iconic characters, they do they have their horrible endings, and I feel like there's too great of a focus on Lancelot as a character, and it could be argued that he's the main character of this book, not King Arthur. So that's what I didn't like. I didn't like Lancelot. I liked him at the start, and then the more and more stuff he does, the worse it gets. But also, I took off 3 points, which is why it's at a 77 score, is that I took off 3 points because of the ending. And once again, I really liked the character of King Arthur. I thought he was a really good character, for the most part very likable, and he was very close to those. He really cared about his knights, and he was often very, very disheartened when something bad happened to them, and he was a really good friend to Lancelot. So it seems sort of unfair, all of the things that happened to him. So I didn't like the ending, and I feel like I shouldn't be so sad considering that the title is about him dying. But yeah, it was other than that, aside from the ending, it was pretty good. I would recommend if you are into medieval stories. It's very overarching. They're a little bit brief, and of course people are getting smoked down left, right and center, and there's a lot of that old language coming back. But if you like things like Merlin, even Lord of the Rings, sort of these where these inspirations come from, these Arthurian stories and medieval stories, fantasy stories, they all sort of branch off from books like this. So if you're really interested in seeing how like our perception of these sort of stories and where they come from and how they originate and what makes them so resonant even today, check this one out. Would recommend. It's a bit hard to get around the language, but it's pretty interesting once you're done. I think that's it for today. I do have another couple of reviews lined up, hopefully soon, but I think that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to subscribe or don't, doesn't matter. And I will see you in the next one.